Yaate. This is Yanaha Kai, and this is Niji Taro, the new Dine Niji YouTube channel. Niji means friend in Ojibwa, and I chose Ojibwa, the Ojibwa word Niji, because I live in the Anishinaabe Nation area, and so in order to honor the local tribe that has been caring for the land for so many years, I have learned a little bit of Ojibwa and I'm on the path of learning even more. So hence the name Niji Taro. And this is my first video that I am doing. I'm doing a pick a book and card reading. So for this reading, I have 3 books, and please excuse the quality of the camera. The first book is Pele, Goddess of Hawaii's Volcanoes. The second book is Sustaining the Forest, the People, and Sustaining the Forest, the People, and the Spirit. And the third book is the Book of the Navajo. And what I will do for you is, after you pick which of these books you are drawn to, I will read a random page and a random set of passages in the book for you, and I may extrapolate on the topic of the phrases that are taken from the book. Now, these books are all related to Dine cultures or Polynesian. I consider Hawaii to be Dine, even though they are, after all, Polynesian. I consider them to be that because they are under the U.S. government. They've been, taken over by the U.S. government. So they are much like the Dine, Navajo, Ojibwa people out here that are seeking sovereignty. So anyway, let's get on with the reading. I also have an angel card and a native spirit oracle card, at least one of each, for each of these piles. And there may be some extra messages depending on which one you choose. Alright, so thank you for sitting through the intro, and I will get right into it. Alright, so for Pele, Goddess of Hawaii's Volcanoes, I will read the passage for you. So what we have here is Pele's people. So there's also a map of Polynesia here, Polynesian area. So the passage that sticks out to me is in the center of this paragraph here at the top. This is page 18 to 19, so those numbers may be relevant for you. They were a sea people. Having no metals, they developed seaworthy sailing canoes built with stone tools and assembled with lashings of braided rope. Now this is the part that really sticks out to me, so listen. These they navigated without charts or instruments over an ocean which was their own and only world, an ocean so vast that it covers half the globe. Here they explored and settled. Now that sentence was the most important. Here they explored and settled an area equal to the area of the combined continents of North and South America, a vast triangle reaching from New Zealand to Hawaii to Easter Island, and they accomplished this before European ocean exploration began. And I'm also drawn to reading down here. It is believed that some groups of Proto-Polynesians moved northward from this route into what is now central and eastern Micronesia. Those who continued eastward into the Pacific discovered the uninhabited islands of Samoa, Tonga, and the eastern islands in the Fiji group at some time before 1100 BC. Here, from perhaps only a few clans, they flourished over 1,000 years in isolation, evolving the physical and cultural traits of the Polynesian people. About 2,000 years ago, the exploration of Polynesia was resumed, probably from Samoa, by sailing canoes ventured eastward with the winter west winds. So I'm going to stop there. So the images that we have here in this book is signaling with the conch shell trumpet. And then we have snaring a shark. And then lastly down here, this image has no caption, but it is a man with a very large fish. Now, the message that I get from Pele's people, this passage that really stuck out to me is, like I mentioned, this specific passage, the message that really sticks out is these they navigated without charts or instruments over an ocean which was their own and only world, an ocean so vast that it covers half the globe. So you may be emulating this kind of energy where you're in a new phase, like you are the new people that are going to be discovering Pele, that are going to be discovering Hawaii, and you are navigating. You may be navigating without charts or instruments over a vast terrain that may cover half the globe. So you may have a far distance to travel, and you may have a lot going for you, and a lot going on, a lot to do, and you're in the beginning phases really of making this journey with only with what you have, having no metals, right? Having no metals, developing seaworthy sailing canoes, built with stone tools, and assembled with lashings of braided rope. So using what you have, what you know how to build, what you know, just using what you know and what you have to do what you can, right? So that's really the message here, is that you're in the beginning phases of something, right? You are the founder of something that is very important to you, that will leave a legacy for the upcoming generations, because those that had traveled and discovered Pele and, had traveled all around Polynesia have settled and cultivated their tribes, their clans, their people, cultures, so that now today we have traditions that can be passed down from the people of Pele, from the people of Hawaii, from the Samoan people, from the Fijian people, all these people, all the people of New Zealand. They have so many rich cultures and traditions that can be passed down. And that's because their ancestors were strong, brave, and intelligent, and willing to be courageous and go the extra mile to lay a foundation for the future. So that is the message for you, Pele, goddess of Hawaii's volcanoes. And the cards that you have for your reading here, your angel card is self-acceptance. self-acceptance. And your native spirit oracle card is shapeshifter. All right, so for these messages, for self-acceptance and shapeshifter, I can already see that these two cards have a lot in common because they are both two words that begin with an S that are also hyphenated, right? So the angel card tells you to accept, yourself. Accept yourself as you are, who you are, where you are, what you've accomplished, what you've done, what you haven't done. Just accept yourself for who you are. So how that can relate to the reading is, Pele's people, they only had what they had, and they accepted that. They accepted what they had, and because of that, they were able to go the extra length, go the extra mile, to venture out, to travel, to see other islands, to to lay the foundation for Hawaiian people. They were able to do that, and they accepted themselves in order to make that happen. Now, with the card Shapeshifter, however, I do see that. Now, this is a very interesting thing I'm gonna say. This angel, right? It's an angel from God, an angel from heaven. Now, Lucifer, Enki, also known as Enki, the Sumerian god, according to what research I've concluded, Lucifer is actually in the Sumerian creation story, etc., etc. Either way, Lucifer was an angel, and because of being cast out of heaven and dwelling the earth and whatnot, it has been told that Lucifer can be a shapeshifter. Now, shapeshifters are common in many different cultures, and in the culture that I associate with, Dine, my tribe, the Navajo, the shapeshifter, skinwalker rather, is not a very positive sign at all whatsoever, because you have to basically become a wicked, unrighteous, immoral person in order to accomplish becoming a skinwalker. Now, there are other tribes that have a more honored kind of view of what a shapeshifter is, what a shapeshifter means, and that's why we have this card, is that it can represent the different types of shapeshifters. So I brought up Lucifer because Lucifer, I think, lacks that self-acceptance that God made Lucifer to be a divine angel. And without that self-acceptance, the shape that angel shifts into is a very unpleasant one because of that lack of self-acceptance. And the way that we perceive ourselves reflects in our day-to-day lives, our interactions, and how people perceive us. So if you are not accepting yourself, you are more than likely shape-shifting into something that reflects that, right? So if you don't accept yourself, people will be able to perceive that, and they may not accept you as well, right? It's a very very basic way that the universe works, the way that life works. So what are you shape-shifting into? Now, you can shape-shift into your true divine form, a divine angel from God, because everybody is a divine creation, whether you believe in God or not, or Jesus, or any deity whatsoever. The main thing is that you come to a point where you can just accept you for who you are, where you are, where you've come from, and just accept where you're going. So have that, and carry that. And when you accept yourself and you shapeshift into your truest, highest form, then you can be like the people of Pele, Pele's people. And you can lay a beautiful foundation that can have a rich sense of being for future generations to come. Okay? So, yeah. Also, the shapeshifter is out here at nighttime in this card. So, these symbols may be popping up for you. In this card, we just have an angel. So, you know, pay attention if you see an angel or if angels pop up anywhere. If a deer, a male deer, pops up at all anywhere in any way, pay attention to the symbolism, full moon. Yeah. Alright, so, yeah. Overall, accept yourself, accept what you have and what you're capable of doing, and embrace that and embody that. Alright. Aheehee miigwech. Thank you very much for viewing, and I hope you have a blessed day. May you walk with Gichie Manido, may you walk with Spirit, and may you walk on your divine path and fulfill the divine mission that you have been granted within this lifetime. Okay, so for the people that chose Sustaining the Forest, the People, and the Spirit. This is by Thomas Davis. So what I have for you here is on page 48 of the book. And it's going to be about 2/5 down. A Menominee Tribal Enterprises sales brochure stresses the importance of culture to the Menominee's sustainable forest ethic. Early records indicate the Menominee as living in villages at the mouth of the Menominee River, and it was here the tribe had its beginning. According to a sacred origin myth of the Menominee, the Great Bear emerged from the ground, took human form, and was made an Indian by the Great Mystery. Being alone, he called to himself, an eagle flying high above to his brother, and descending, took the form of a human and an Indian. As the two journeyed up the river, they met a beaver, and made him their brother, as were the wolf, sturgeon, crane, moose, and white-tailed deer, being made their brothers. Other animals, fish, and birds were made their brothers, forming the clans of the tribe and the first Menominees. Today, the Menominee live in an area which is part of the original domain. This pristine environment with clear running streams, sparkling lakes, and acres of forested land are filled with animals, fish, and birds, like it was when the Creator made the first Menominee. Menominee Tribal Enterprises Brochure, 1994. So there's a lot I can say about this topic of a origin myth, specifically for the Diné tribes, the Menominee people. So what I would like to say first of all is the name that is used here in the book, origin myth, Now, the word myth implies fiction. It implies fantasy. It implies things being made up. And I would prefer we use the term origin story to describe stories like this, because many Diné prophecies about the coming of the Europeans have been fulfilled, and the events thereafter. And those stories were not myth, but turned out to be true. So, for example, many tribes had prophesied that these white-eyed monsters would come across the sea on the backs of turtles with clouds guiding them. And these people, these white-eyed monsters, would be obsessed with jewels and gold. And if these white-eyed monsters did not make peace with our people, then that would be the end of our people. And 526 years and about 7 months later, that's where we are today. Many Diné people have undergone genocide. And that was not a myth. So, what I can say is that a lot of these origin stories are framed as myth with modern English linguistics. And I find that to be very disrespectful for the tribes, for the people that have passed down the stories, wisdoms, and teachings of their ancestors, for that to be called a fantasy. So just keep that in mind, that these stories, even though they may seem very obscure, are not always myth. And it's better to just call them stories. So, apart from that, this message is very powerful. So, you having chose this passage, this book with this passage, you are choosing to consider your origins, your origin story, the people you come from, the place you come from, the long line of ancestors that you come from. Who is the first person in your ancestry, in your family tree? Who is the first person? How did they live? What were they like? Were they actually a bear? There's so many things to ask yourself at this point in time. And what sort of origin are you creating for your descendants? What sort of origin story are you giving them? So pay attention to any sort of bear symbolism that comes up, especially bear, because the Menominee people begin with a bear. Another symbol that is very important is an eagle. And the other symbols that are also important, but may not be the most important, are wolf, sturgeon, crane, moose, and white-tailed deer. Other animals like the birds, and fish, because these are the clans. These are the clans of the tribe, of the first Menominee. So many clans exist today throughout many nations and many tribes. And there's a lot of animals that are in common, that are shared amongst different clans. There are many that are different. So I would like to advise to you to consider which clan you associate with, which clan you resonate with, which clans you may actually come from, because some people do know which clans they do come from. Some people do have relics and items that show their clan. Otherwise, you can do some meditating and connecting with your higher self, connect with great mystery to come to understand your origins, to come to understand which tribe, which clan you associate with. So I recommend looking into the origin myth of your ancestry. So if you, for example, know you are a Menominee person, you can look into the different Menominee origin stories, different origin stories from tribes that are around the tribe that you come from. Now, for example, if you are Chinese, there is an origin story about I believe a woman in a gourd, much like a flood story that comes from the Chinese. So there's all kinds of origin stories, practically every single tribe on this planet. And yes, even if you are European like me, you will more than likely be the descendant of a tribe of people that have been suppressed by another tribe of people. So for example, if you are Germanic, then more than likely you have some different tribes that have been nationalized under the Germanic people. So you can do some research and find out which specific tribe you relate back to. So if you also are Mexicano, for example, like me, then it's possible that you could have some Basque or Galician ancestry, like I do. And the Basque people have an origin story, and I'm quite sure that the Galician people do as well. And they have a very, 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 very unique background story to where they come from and history overall. So it's very interesting. Many Mexicanos like me have Basque or Galician ancestry, and we kind of come from a long line of travelers in that case. So yeah, I recommend getting interested in origin stories. Even if you have absolutely no idea what origin you come from, just read origin stories that you resonate with. Whatever piques your interest, you know? Alright, there's a lot to say about that one. There's a whole lot to say about that one. And I have a couple of cards for you. I have Focus. Your angel card is Focus. And your native spirit card is Vision Quest. So, what all does this mean? Focus. So those that created the origin stories had to focus on surviving where they came from, on their first steps. They had to focus on what they needed, where they're going, who they are, and what they're capable of. And the Native Spirit Oracle card, Vision Quest. Now, to go on a Vision Quest, I can say that you can go on a Vision Quest at just about any time in your life, any moment. You can do it from home. you can do it at work, you can do it at school. Now, there are traditional actual vision quests that you can go on, but in the case that you are maybe not able at the moment, consider what it means to have a vision quest. To have a vision quest is to seek guidance. To seek guidance from spirit, from the universe, from your higher self, from your intuition. Because your intuition is connected to Geche Manido, your intuition is connected to Dio, connected to God. Your intuition is connected to Source. So open yourself up to receiving messages from Source. So that you, who may have a difficult time focusing, you may have more than one project on your plate, find it within yourself to focus on what is the most important thing for you to do right now. Prioritize what needs the most attention from you right now. Right now. What needs the most attention from you? Now, when one seeks a vision quest, they are seeking guidance, and they are seeking guidance so that they can see their divine mission, so that they can be able to take their first steps on their divine mission, on their divine path in life, to live in alignment, right? Because that's what we all ultimately want. We all ultimately want to feel whole, to be loved, to enjoy life. Now, if we're having a hard time doing that, then, life is shaking us up, making it hard for us to focus. So take the time to go on that vision quest so that you can focus on what is most important and dear to you. Wow, there's thunder. Yeah. So I'm going to stop with that message, and I'm going to move on to the next card that I grabbed here for you. So this is a play on words that I have happened upon. So I have these two words here, and this message is specifically for you. So I have two words here at the top: disorder and alignment. Now, when I look up the definitions for these words, I can make a word web. So from disorder, we have disarrange, verb transitive. Now, from alignment, we have agreement. From agreement, we have arrangement. Notice how arrangement and disarrange are opposite. We have many people that have many, many, many disorders these days. Most often than not, most people have at the very least, one disorder. ADD, ADHD, OCD, SAD, etc. And the list goes on. Now, to have an illness or a disorder is actually a very unusual and temporary thing. Many Diné tribes know this, and they understand this, and they understand that if you are experiencing, for example, bipolar disorder, you are sick. You are experiencing a temporary illness that has thrown you out of alignment with spirit, with being your true self, with having a healthy relationship with life. You have a lot of negative energy. That's what a disorder is. So to be in alignment is to be in arrangement. To have a disorder, to be disorderly, is to experience a disarrangement, is to disarrange things. So your energy is disarranged. So arrange your energy. Consider what this means, right? So be in alignment con Dio, be in alignment with the universe, be in alignment with God. Be in alignment with your true higher self. Be in alignment with your needs, the community's needs, your family's needs, what the world needs, and what Dio needs, what God asks of you, what you need. Yeah. So ultimately, being in alignment is being able to follow the footsteps that your ancestors had laid before you. Alright, so I believe that is all I have for you. Aheehee, miigwech, gracias. Thank you for visiting my channel. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it resonated, and I hope it helped. Alright, so may you have a blessed day, may you have a blessed life, and may you be guided to fulfill your divine mission and walk in alignment with God, Source, Universe, Giche Manido, Divine Spirit, Great Mystery, however you call it. May you be blessed and have a blessed life. Alright, for those that have chosen the Book of the Navajo, I have this passage for you. Now this passage is on page 143 and it's in the middle. Cortés, with a horde of Indians, enemies of the Aztecs, who quickly allied themselves with the Spaniards, made short work of the Aztecs, with Tenochtitlan conquered and the Aztec civilization all but reduced to dust. Cortés began carefully to lay plans for an entrada into the vast uncharted region to the north, where he, as well as other Spanish leaders, thought the fabled 7 golden cities of Cibola of Spanish legend might be found. The legend of the 7 golden cities was almost 400 years old and was firmly entrenched in Spanish mythology, dating from the Moorish capture of Merida in 1150. According to the legend, 7 bishops of Merida, along with their followers, had escaped the Moors and had fled by ship across the Western Ocean. After weeks of travel, the fugitives had landed on Blessed Isles. These Blessed Isles had been the objective of every Spanish explorer since Columbus. Alright, I'm back. So, Cortés, alright. This is a very interesting passage that you get here. So, I was drawn to reading about Cortés, and so the thing about him is that he, he's a Spanish conquistador. Yeah, he's a Spanish conquistador. Yeah, either way. He came here from Spain, right? And if you may not know this, a lot of Spanish were experiencing the Spanish Inquisition and had to flee from Spain. A lot of Jewish people had to flee from Spain, and in order to find a new home that would accept them. A lot of Spanish went to Mexico, Sudamerica. They went to the new land thinking that, they could have some freedom. Now this was a double-edged sword because Cortés came along, and he was under some direct orders, and eventually, he was making the orders himself, and he was really making a name for himself, probably more than he ever had in his entire life, because of what he was able to accomplish. Now, he allied with a lot of indigenous people that didn't want to be under the Aztec Empire anymore. So he was able to help many indigenous people regain their strength and freedom and their own sovereignty from tyrannical leaders. But at the same time, when he participated in destroying so many people, tribes, cultures, he was contributing to the indigenous genocide that the Diné people of the Americas have experienced. And so what's mentioned in here is the 7 golden cities of Cibola, of Spanish legend. And it mentions here, the legend of 7 golden cities was almost 400 years old and was firmly entrenched in Spanish mythology, dating from the Moorish capture of Merida in 1150. According to the legend, 7 bishops of Merida, along with their followers, had escaped the Moors and had fled by ship across the Western Ocean. After weeks of travel, the fugitives had landed on Blessed Isles. These Blessed Isles had been the objective of every Spanish explorer since Columbus. Okay, so many Spanish explorers were motivated by material gain, more than anything, material gain and power. And on top of that, a lot of the people that were under Cortés did not have a choice. They had to either stay with Cortés and fight, or, well, you don't have a choice. You can't go back to Spain. That's what a lot of people that were under Cortés in the very beginning experienced. And many, like I said, many of the Spanish were obsessed with gold. And this island that they speak of, I have an idea of which island they actually could have been talking about. And the fact that they mistook an entire continent to be that island is, to say the least, a bit foolish. Yeah. Because the 7 golden cities of Cibola that they're talking about may, in fact, be High Brazil. High Brazil is a mythological island that is west of Spain, to be specific. It's a bit west of Spain. And the High Brazil island has had many encounters before roughly the 1900s was the last encounter. People described it as an island that was made of gold. There was a wizard that lived on that island that kept the island hidden from those with human eyes. And the people that would come to the island would be, greeted by very kind people. And these kind people, they were magical, and they were very abundant, and they, it was what would be described as a blessed isle. So it's more more than likely possible that they were actually mistaking High Brazil for, they were mistaking the Americas, Mexico, for High Brazil. Now, this is just my hypothesis. Now, with this information in mind, the message that I'm gathering from this passage for you is that Cortés, he's someone to admire, but also he's not necessarily somebody you want to live up to. You don't necessarily want to be like that person. Cortés was very strong, very, very vigilant, very able to do what he was able to do. After all, he had gone through several wars. He had guided so many men. He had done so much organizing. And he had allied himself with so many different people. He was able to do a lot in his lifetime. And that is something that is admirable, his courage and what he was able to do. But we must also take from this that Cortés, like many others, were misinformed, or they were not able to make connections about these things specifically. Instead, he was, and they were, blinded by gold, blinded by desire, in order to actually see the truth, in order to actually consider the real facts, the real details, or the real connections that could possibly be made about this 7 golden cities of Cibola, right? So, you may have some sort of vision in mind, right? You may want to go to Australia to hang out with the kangaroos and become a kangaroo sanctuary specialist. Who knows what kind of dreams you got, right? You got some amazing dreams, I'm sure. But be sure that you're on the right path. So if you want to go out to Australia and do this thing with the kangaroos, be sure that this really is the right place for you. Be sure that this really is the set of animals that actually needs you. Because it may not be the kangaroos that need you, right? You might have the right idea in mind, and you might be, kind of going in the right direction, but you may not need to go all the way to Australia. You might just need to go to Madagascar, for all I know. So, that's an example of what Cortés and these other Spaniards probably just needed to do. They probably didn't need to go that far from Spain in order to actually find this golden island. They probably just needed to go up to High Brazil, which was west. Not that far west, but it was west, right? So, consider what you do know and what you don't know, and what you can know. Because with that in mind, you can be on the right path. So yeah, learn from Cortés. You can be great. You have the potential to be great, but consider what kind of legacy you are leaving for yourself and others. What kind of example you're setting. So for your 3 cards, I have, for your angel card, intention. Now this is very, very, very synchronistic to the message that I pulled for you. So Cortés, he had intention of creating wealth for himself, of fulfilling his orders that he was given at the time, I believe by the Spanish king, maybe. He had the intention of fulfilling his duties, right? But his intentions were not exactly the best. He was willing to do whatever he had to do in order to get what he wanted, and sometimes that is good, and sometimes those intentions may not be in everybody's best interest. So watch your intentions. Consider if this gold city really, going the extra distance and extra length is really worth it. What are you going to find out there that you don't have here? What is your intention behind this journey? And then on top of that, you have peace pipe and talking stick. So the first card that comes out here is peace pipe. So a peace pipe, a chanupa, as it can be called, I believe, in Lakota. The peace pipe, the chanupa, has a history to it, a beautiful, beautiful history to it. Basically, there's a few different stories about where it originates from. I believe there may be a few different. I only know of about one story right now of the chanupa, and the chanupa comes from Te Sangwin, the white buffalo woman. And the story of the white buffalo woman is quite simple. It's told in different ways depending on who you talk to, but ultimately, there was a tribe of people that were Lakota that were experiencing a sort of famine. And they had been hoping and wishing and praying for some sort of change to come. And 2 young men were out hunting and trying to gather some food. And the young men come across they stumble across a beautiful woman that is fair and is wearing all white. She's all white. She has dark black hair, and she's floating off of the earth, and she's just beautiful, just gorgeous. But you could tell from just looking at her that she was a divine being. And one of the young men recognized that she had a sort of divinity about her just from looking at her, from experiencing her energy. And the other, however, was just looking at how beautiful she was enamored with this beauty to the point of it being a lust. And he had very indecent thoughts about her. And as the 2 young men approached her, the one with the indecent thoughts said to the other, "I'm going to make her my wife," and walked up to her to wrap his arms around her, to have her. And the moment he did that, a cloud of dust came up from where he stood, and he turned to bones. A pile of dust and bones. The other young man was terrified by what he had just seen, but he didn't run. She told him to tell the young man, to tell the old elders to prepare for her visit within 2 days. And she would come to them with information and guidance on how they can become abundant once again. And the time came, the young man went back, gathered the elders, and they prepared for her coming. And when she came with the chanupa. And she showed the people how to use it, how to use the peace pipe to pray for their people, for the land, and how to give blessings and offerings to Wakantanka. And the chanupa has some intricate details to it. Like, for example, it has a stone on it, a red stone, a bloodstone, red stone, red bloodstone, that comes from the fourth world. And the fourth world is what is talked about in many Diné cultures, Diné traditions. Basically, this is not our first time here on Earth. There have been mass extinctions on this planet, and I'm not just talking about the dinosaurs or the trilobites or, I'm not talking about that specifically. I'm talking about people. People have had many lifetimes on this planet. That's why it's called the fourth world. In the fourth world, there was a great flood. It has been told that there was a great flood. And the people, the decent and indecent people that were swept up by the flood were immediately turned into red stone in the sea. And so that's where the stone comes from. It comes from those people. So that stone is on the chanupa. And that chanupa is used by a select individual today. That chanupa has been passed down from generation to generation. And so, back to the story of Te San Nguyen. After teaching them, giving them blessings, she leaves. And as she leaves, she turns into a buffalo. I believe she turns into a black buffalo first. Then she rolls around on the ground, turns into a red, and then rolls again, turns into a yellow, and then once more, she finally becomes a white buffalo and departs. And she said, before she departs, that she would be back, she would return. And when she returns, it would be a great time of change. She would bring blessings, but at the same time, there would be great change and great destruction. And I was born in the year 1994, a very great year of change. The white buffalo have returned. The white buffalo have been born more so in abundance since the year 1994. There are many white buffalo, actually, nowadays. So, anyway, that is the story of the chanupa, where it comes from. So when you get this card, it says, be sure to ask for what you need. Give blessings, give offerings to the universe, to Wakantanka, to Spirit, to Giche Manido, to Dio. Be sure to give offerings, blessings, prayers. And when you consume the medicines of this earth, tobacco, aloe, tulsi, cannabis, lavender, echinacea, when you consume these herbs, these medicines of the earth, give thanks, blessings to where they come from, and give blessings as you consume them and as you use them and utilize them. And consider where they're going. So that's that message. And then on top of that, you have talking stick. So this is a very, very straightforward message. So what are you saying? What intention do you have in your blessings? And what intention do you have in your speech and what you're sharing? Take the time to speak your truth. Be sure to speak your truth. And be sure to listen to others. Because when the talking stick is not in your hand, it is in the hand of someone that needs to be heard, that needs to talk, that needs to speak. So, when you speak out of the highest good for yourself and those around you. Say what needs to be said, but speak with love, kindness, and compassion. Speak for the wellness of all, yesterday, today, tomorrow. What you do now and today reflects on future generations to come. So what you talk about, what you set out to do, what intentions you have, what blessings you have, what gratitude you express will all reflect in the end. And that all starts right now. So consider that. Consider what you do and don't know. Consider what you can know. And consider what you're doing. And what you are able to do. Alright. Aheehee. Miigwech. Gracias. Thank you for sitting through this guided book reading. I hope that you found something out of use for this. May you be blessed. May you walk in alignment on your divine mission and be guided to fulfill your highest good. Alright? Alright. Aheehee. Miigwech. Adios.